All right, well, it's about 5 minutes past, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello, my name is Gracie Crabtree. I'm an associate engineer here at Selling Biosciences. I work on engineering and product development, as well as run our on-site lab and go through any on-site trainings and demos we may have. So we are really excited that we are able to host on-site trainings and demos. So if any of you guys ever want to come down, we are available for that. But other than that, I'm very excited to be down here with you guys today doing a virtual training. So today we will be going over all things PRP. We will mostly be focused on our ART PRP two-step device. I will show you what that looks like to fully process out that device. So put some whole blood in, spin it down, get that stacked. I will also be showing you our new and improved two-step, which features a white sight wheel, which aids with visualization of where you're at in the stack. We'll be doing kind of a side-by-side demo to give you a first look at what the difference really is and kind of show you both. I do want to note that that will not be available until July, so we're really excited to give you this first sneak peek at it. While those devices are in the centrifuge, I do have a little presentation for you guys today. We will be talking about low dose versus high dose platelet-rich plasma preps. So kind of the benefits of high dose PRP, what that looks like, and kind of how our devices fit into that. So without further ado, we can kind of jump into processing with our two steps. So I first want to show you just what the kit looks like. So this would be our standard PRP two-step kit. So these kits are really unique because they come with everything that you would possibly need to process out a PRP prep. So what I mean by that is it comes with a blood draw pouch, and I'll quickly show you what all that comes with. So you're going to have your ACDA, your butterfly needle, a 60cc syringe, and then in here you'll find a tourniquet, a Band-Aid, a blunt fill needle, and another 35cc syringe. So that will give you everything you would need to process to perform a blood draw before you load your device. Then we have our two-step right here. So I'm going to go ahead and load the device. But before we do that, I want to quickly show you what I mean by the white O-ring compared to our new white sight wheel. So this is our current two-step in comparison to our new two-step with the sight wheel. So if you look kind of at the bottom of this piston here, you will see that now the sight wheel extends to the edge. And that's going to give you a lot better visualization of when after you've spun and you're trying to see where you are at in the stack. So to fill these devices today, I'm going to be working with a blood bag. So when you're filling these devices, we do want to put 60 cc's of whole blood in them. That might be a little higher than you may be used to, but we are going to talk about that, why 60 cc's is really important later in our presentation. But basically it gives you a much larger volume of that good stuff you're looking for in your PRP. So I'm going to go ahead. Our blood bag here. So again, we're going to be filling with 60 cc's. Bear with me here while we get this out of the bag. Alrighty. So when you're inserting into the device, you want to make sure that when you remove your top cap off of the device, that you are setting it right side up on the bench in order to maintain sterility. So we're going to go and take that cap off. We're going to load into port 1 here. You want to do that kind of slowly so you're not creating any bubbles up in the device. Then we can go ahead and cap that one off. So traditionally, you would now weigh this out against a counterbalance and go ahead and spin, but I'm just going to go ahead and fill up the sight wheel here so we can go ahead and spin those both. It takes a little bit longer to get it out of the blood bag. I also want to note that you usually would have to put ACDA into your 60cc syringe before. You want to make sure that you have 10% of the volume of ACDA in your syringe before you start loading it with blood. So if you want 60 cc's total of blood, you would need to make sure you had 6 cc's of ACDA in your syringe before performing your blood draw. This blood already comes with ACDA preloaded, so we don't have to do that today, but it is important to note that you would need to do that. The same thing here when you spin off. Again, you want to make sure you're inserting it into port 1. Setting that cap right side up. Go ahead and connect your syringe. And same thing here. So again, this is our new 2-step with the sight wheel. It also does not affect the spin or it does not affect the stack. It's simply a tool just to kind of give you a better visualization of where you are when we get there. All right, so these devices are loaded, so we can go ahead and put them in the centrifuge. Again, all of our 2 steps, if you're a first-time buyer, come with a scale and a counterbalance. So instead of having 2 steps, you would have a counterbalance. So you would need to weigh that out on a scale. Make sure you're within a couple of grams of your 2-step, and then go ahead and load them up. You would just fill your counterbalance with water. So when you're loading a centrifuge, you want to make sure that your orange thumb wheel is facing towards the rotor. What I mean by that is orange thumb wheel towards the center of your centrifuge. So if you need it, we are going to spin this at 3,200 RPMs for 15 minutes today, but if you did need to kind of mess with this, you would just press set. You would press it twice to get over to your speed, use the arrows to toggle up and down, and then same thing for time. Once you have all that set, you would press enter, and then go ahead and press start. So like I said, that's going to go on spin for 15 minutes. So while that's going, we're going to go ahead and move into the presentation. All right. All right. So like I said, today we will be talking about low dose versus high dose platelet-rich plasma preparations and kind of what that will look like pertaining to our own devices. So I kind of just want to start with a general background of what is PRP. I know that we've already talked about it a little bit here, but can never hurt to kind of just give you a more cohesive background. So PRP is a concentration of the platelets, growth factors, and proteins that are naturally found in our blood. Now, this is important because platelets are signaled when the body becomes injured in order to initiate that healing cascade and therefore promote healing. So PRP injections are a really cool autologous regenerative way to allow for the concentration of those platelets and then precisely place an injection to support the body's natural healing cascade in whichever location the body might need it. So these are some of the growth factors in proteins that are typically found in PRP. These are definitely not all of the growth factors in proteins, but they are some of the ones found in the highest concentrations that are typically asked about regarding PRP. The first we have alpha-2 methylglobin, which is A2M. That growth factor is for regulation of inflammation and tissue regeneration. We also have transforming growth factor beta, or TGF-beta, which enhances the synthesis of type 1 collagen, promotes angiogenesis, and stimulates chemotaxis of immune cells. There's also platelet-derived growth factor, or PDGF, which also enhances collagen synthesis, proliferation of bone cells, and macrophage activation. Finally, we have vascular endothelial growth factor, or VEGF, which stimulates angiogenesis, migration and mitosis of endothelial cells, increases permeability of the vessels, stimulates chemotaxis of macrophages, and finally, we have fibrinogen, which is a protein involved in clot formation and tissue regeneration. So again, those are definitely not all the growth factors, but just some of the heavy hitters that definitely would like to see in your PRP prep. So all that being said, while PRP definitely is a really cool regenerative tool, not all PRP is the same. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of different devices that offer different input values into their PRP. And what I mean by that is like how we use 60 milliliters of whole blood and put it in our device. We would consider that a higher dose of PRP, whereas there are low volume PRP devices that are usually based on back container tubes. We would consider a lower volume PRP device anything under 30 milliliters input of whole blood. And what that means is that it usually results in lower platelet counts that end up being below the level needed for a therapeutic benefit. So you might not be actually getting all those good benefits from the PRP that you want, solely based off of your input volume into your PRP device. So now I have kind of a table to show you what this kind of more looks like. So this is a table on data collected from multiple uses of different low volume PRP kits. So as you can see, we have the actual device, whether it uses gel or not, and I'll kind of touch on that a little bit more later. The input volumes, that's the amount of whole blood that's being put into the device. The PRP volume that is being taken out after centrifugation. And then your platelet count, your fold increase, and your platelet recovery percentage. So if you look at this table, approximately 85% of the devices ended up producing less than 1.5 billion total platelets. Now, if you don't really know what the baseline for this is, you're typically looking to get about 5 billion total platelets. So this is definitely on the lower side. And actually, if you look even closer, 40% of those produce less than 1 billion platelets. Another kind of advantage of a low-dose PRP system is that manufacturers find that they're easier to use. But if you kind of look at the varied results shown in the table, it kind of suggests that the results are still operator dependent and might not be as straightforward as claimed. For example, if you look closely at the RegenLab results, the platelet recovery percentage varied from 35% all the way up to 83.7%, which is a pretty big swing for one device. And the same can be seen in the Arthrex results with a swing from 48.2% to 79.5%. So these results could definitely be due to operator error or operator variability. However, it still kind of goes to show they may not be as easy to use and dependable as claimed, but there definitely is some error in it. Now, I want to take a look a little bit closer about the lower fold increase, and this is kind of a chart that depicts that. So the fold increase is a function of the whole blood process and the target volume of PRP to be produced. So more specifically, it's the increase of platelets concentrated in the PRP versus the whole blood. So typically a 5x fold increase is considered a good performance for that increase of platelets in your PRP concentration versus your whole blood. As you can see here, there is a pretty linear relationship between the fold increase and the percent PRP volume relative to the volume of whole blood process. So for the lower PRP, volume of PRP relative to the input volume of whole blood, there's a higher concentration of platelets. This really just shows that the number of platelets per milliliter of PRP is directly linked to the PRP target volume. And kind of what that looks like, for example, with our devices, if we're putting in 60 mLs of whole blood and getting back 5 to 7%, we would definitely have a lower percentage of PRP of the whole blood, which would give us a higher fold rate. So if we kind of go back to our original chart here and take a closer look at some of these fold increases, it's easier to see what I mean. So if we take the first row that I kind of highlighted out there, the playbook text, this is a input volume of 6 milliliters for a PRP volume of 0.3 milliliters. That's about 5% PRP volume. And if you look on the chart here, that's the lowest volume of PRP and also the highest fold increase. So it really just aligns with that linear relationship there. Also, if you look at the eclipse, this one is kind of on the opposite end of that spectrum, where it's a 9 milliliter input volume compared to 6 milliliters of PRP for only a 0.4x fold increase. So we're definitely getting on the lower side there as they're trying to pull out well over half of the input volume as PRP. And same thing with the Regen lab down there, the last highlighted row. That one has an 8 milliliter input volume for a return of about 6 milliliters. So that's 75% PRP volume compared to the whole blood, which is definitely very high. And you can see that reflected in the fold increase of only 0.5x. So once again, just showing you that the lower volume that you're inputting, you cannot take as much PRP from it and still have it have the same therapeutic benefits. So there definitely are some clinical study examples that go along with a lower dose PRP preparation. Some of these studies have been performed on rats under in vitro conditions or with shorter term follow-up, such as only 4 weeks. But if you kind of take a closer look into some of these studies that are referenced, the rat study had PRP pooled from multiple rat donors and was also inconclusive. Further, a rat model is not associated with the musculoskeletal system and therefore kind of makes the relevance questionable, especially when considering NEOA and other similar pathologies. In vitro can definitely be a good baseline, but sometimes the results do not really transfer over to in vivo. And then finally, short-term follow-ups definitely do not show if there are any long-term benefits to the final treatment. So again, some of these are kind of inconclusive in terms for advocating for low-dose PRP. If we also take a look at a paper from Lewis in 2022, it was a clinical study using the ACT device, which was referenced over in your table, with an input volume of 20 milliliters of whole blood for the treatment of NEOA. So if you take a closer look at this study, there was no statistically meaningful difference between those treated with PRP versus the control group of those treated with saline at the 1-year follow-up. So again, that one definitely has a lower input volume of whole blood there. And if we take a look at Binnell from 2021, that was a clinical study using the Regen BCP, also inputted with 20 milliliters of whole blood for the treatment of NEOA. In that study, the fold increase was just 1.2x for a total of 1.6 billion platelets. So definitely not hitting that 5 billion mark and definitely on the lower end of our fold increase. So that also shows no statistically significant difference in pain or cartilage volume at the 1-year follow-up. So again, some of these studies that are referencing the low-dose PRP are not having any significant results. So kind of just to reiterate some of these points on lower dose PRP treatments. Once again, they do have low platelet yields. So again, that sometimes means that it's not as therapeutically effective, especially as a dose for MSK pathologies such as NEOA. They have lower fold increases, usually not even hitting 2x when you're kind of definitely looking for a 5x fold increase. They have shown no meaningful improvement against control groups in these studies referenced, especially at the longer-term follow-up. And they're not necessarily easier to use, as we saw by the variability featured in that original chart. One of the other advantages to the lower dose system might be that they're lower cost, but if you kind of look closely at that, you would need to purchase more of them to reach the same effectiveness level as a higher dose PRP device, which not only adds cost, but also adds complexity as you have multiple devices that you're trying to pull PRP from. Now we can take a look at higher dose PRP and kind of the benefits of that. So the first study I kind of want to talk about is a study from Gracie in 2022. This study utilized 30 milliliters of whole blood to yield 5 milliliters of PRP, which is definitely on the higher side of the input volume compared to some of the other devices that we've so far talked about. And this study ended up boasting 12.8 billion platelets in their PRP preparation. So right away, you can see that there's a lot more platelets in this PRP, solely from kind of that input volume increase. So in this study, the PRP treatment group showed a statistically significant improvement through the 1-year follow-up. However, I do want to note that the scores were the same as the control group of the 2-year follow-up, which does point to the need for periodic injections over time, which the study did not do. And also, a study by Carly was performed using our PRP Plus device to determine platelet recovery and enrichment factors. Our PRP Plus is our white PRP concentration device. You can see here. We won't be spinning this today, but I will get into a little bit more of this in a second. But that is the device that the study was using. So with a standard PRP preparation using this device, we had a 68% platelet recovery rate and a 5.9x fold increase. So in these terms, our fold increase and our enrichment factors are the same. It's just talking about our increase of those platelets in our PRP prep. So obviously you can see that that 5.9x has hit that 5x threshold that we're not looking for. Is definitely higher than those low dose PRP devices. Also, in our leukocyte 4 preparation, which I will also talk a little bit more about, we had a 67% platelet recovery rate with a 6.1x fold increase. So again, with either preparation using our device, we are getting 6x fold increases just from putting that 60 milliliters of whole blood in there. So kind of just to touch again on our devices, kind of on the whole. Our 2-step device, which is obviously what we're talking about today, has also shown a 6x fold increase. Again, we do put 60 milliliters of whole blood for an input. We typically get about 5 to 7 milliliters of PRP out of there, with each milliliter having 1 billion platelets. So if you think about that, we're definitely getting 5 to 7 at least billion platelets out of our preparations. We also have that orange thumbnail on top there, which I will obviously show you when we get there, which controls the collection window. So you can choose where you want to be in that stack and kind of draw right up from the top. Therefore, no needle is necessary. So it's eliminating sterile breaks and just having everything in one device. There's also no additives. So earlier I mentioned that some of the lower dose PRP devices have a gel in them. And what that looks like is you would spin it with the gel and the blood in there. The gel would actually stack above the RBCs and you would pull up everything on top of the gel. So it does kind of just add something to your blood that you might not necessarily want. In our device, you do not need anything like that. So it's more of a true buffy coat layer. This one also features leukocyte-rich and leukocyte-poor preparations. So today we are showing you leukocyte-rich. That is our standard PRP preparation. So 15-minute spin for 3,200 RPMs. And that you can draw the buffy coat out of that. We also offer a leukocyte port preparation, which is a softer spin on that first spin, so 10 minutes at 1900 RPMs, which creates more of a platelet cloud. You would then draw up the platelet cloud and put it in the back chamber, as you can kind of see in this photo here, and respin. This time you do a hard spin for 10 minutes at 3200. And what that's going to do is create a pellet of all the growth factors, proteins, all that good stuff in your platelet cloud, and just a more concentrated dose. Finally, that brings us to our PRP Plus, so this white device here. This one also features no serial breaks. We have this valve system included here, so, and also these collection window thumb wheel mechanisms, so you would be able to lower to where you want to be in the stack. Once you will see two white O-rings emerge. Once you know where you want to be in the stack, you would flip it to draw. You could draw your PRP out. And then we also offer a filter function on this. So we have an integrated nanopores filter back here. So the pores in this are specifically designed to let those growth factors and proteins pass through, but pull out the excess saline. So you would filter out your PPP through this back filter here. It would pull out the saline and you would get a much higher concentration of PPP should you need that. So again, these devices are really cool. Everything is a point of care, integrated into this one device for no sterile breaks. So once again, these are higher dose PRP devices, which we've just seen is very beneficial. So before I get into kind of the preparations with the site wheel, does anyone have any questions? All right. We can go ahead and get our devices out of the centrifuge now. When you're pulling out your devices, you do want to be a little bit careful as to not disrupt the stack too much, but it should be okay. So this is our two-step with the site wheel here. Then we have our traditional two-step here. So right away, you can kind of see what the addition of this site wheel does. You immediately know where your collection window is in that stack, whereas you can't quite see this one yet. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cross this out with these devices. So once again, everything that you will need is going to come in this kit here. So we have our 30 milliliter syringes, we have those syringe caps, our lure connectors. So first we will out with the regular two-step. So when you're using this, you're going to go ahead and start spinning this orange thumb wheel in the down direction. If you look on top, it does have the words up and down, so you know which way to spin. So we're going to start spinning down with our device here. And if you can see that white collection window, that is right below there is where you are drawing out of your device. So that same function is met with this white site wheel here. So you can definitely see how it extends the edge of the device, and you can see it a little bit better in comparison to our white O-ring on the current two-step device. So when you spin down, you want to make sure that you're stopping your white O-ring about two O-rings widths above the buffy coat layer here. Sometimes a little bit easier to look from the side to give you a better angle. But if you also look here, I want to show you our stack up close. So you can obviously see our red blood cells down here. Right on top of our red blood cells is our PRP, or our buffy coat layer. It looks like that kind of whitish layer sitting on top of the red blood cells. And then up here we have our platelet-poor plasma, or our PPP. So first, when you're drawing out of here, once you have your O-ring in the correct position, you're going to take off this cap and attach your syringe, and you'll be ready to pull out your PPP. First, I do want to drop this one down as well, just to give you another comparison of what this site wheel is going to look like. So same thing here. All of the other functionalities about this updated two-step are exactly the same. It's just the addition of the site wheel here. So we're going to go ahead and start moving this down. And same thing here, you want to stop your site wheel about 2 width lengths of the site wheel, if that makes sense. So a little bit above the buffy coat there, just to ensure that you're not touching it, because you are going to draw out from below. So just again, just to give you another comparison, especially if the patient has a little bit darker blood or anything like that, this definitely gives you a lot more visualization into where you are, which can kind of give you a little bit more accuracy, especially from case to case. So to go ahead and pull out, we're going to remove the cap off of our thumb wheel up top. You want to unlock your syringes just by pulling on it first. You'll go ahead and attach that on top right there. After that, we are going to slowly pull up. And this will self-stop you. You cannot possibly pull more out than where you set your O-ring right there. So now we have our PPP. You can cap with your syringe cap. And then from there, you can go ahead and pull out your buffy coat. So to do that, you're going to drop your white O-ring to below the buffy coat. So you're going to go ahead and spin it all the way down until you're in that RBC layer, just to make sure that you're getting all of the buffy coat out of there. And for this, you can actually use a 10 cc syringe. So I'm going to break that one. Go ahead and put it on top again, and you'll pull out your PRP and buffy coat into this one. Now, if this doesn't have enough volume for whatever injection or treatment that you want to perform, that is why these lure connectors are here. So you can actually connect your 2 syringes together and supplement your PRP with your PPP. I'll show you that with our site wheel over here. Now we can kind of go through the same process just to show you guys one more time. Again, it is going to be the same process over here. So we're just going to attach our 30 cc syringe onto the top. Sorry, cannot get the bag open today. Once again, you want to unlock your syringe. When you're pulling up, you do want to do it a little bit slowly, just to not put too much pressure and accidentally create too much force and pull up that buffy coat. You just want to slowly draw up. Again, it will stop you, so there's no need to kind of guess at where you're. So there you go. As you can see, the site wheel also did not disturb the stack at all. We still got the same exact stack that we got over here in our current 2-step. Again, it's solely just kind of to help you visualize where you're at when you are drawing up your fluids. The opposite side. And same thing here. In this case, you want to drop your site wheel below the red blood cell layer as well. So I don't know if you can kind of see that, but in this case, you can still kind of see our site wheel in there. Whereas if this was the O-ring on the current 2-step, you wouldn't necessarily still be able to see where you are in the stack. So from there, we are going to pull up our buffy coats. And this would be your PRP ready for re-injection. So again, I do just want to show you quickly what I mean by supplementing your PRP. So I'm going to go and open up this lure connector. All you would do is attach one side to your PRP syringe, attach your other side to your PPP syringe, and you can push from your PPP into your PRP until you get that volume that you needed. So I'm over 10, but if you needed 11 or so, you could just keep pushing it. And after that, you would be ready for re-injection. So that is how you process out with our two-step devices. Again, I want to make it clear that our new site will not be available until July. But in the meantime, we do have our current two-step, and again, they both work great, as you can see from the low dose versus higher dose. But we are very excited about the site wheel edition. That is all I have for you guys today. Does anyone have any questions before we hop off?